the Shiva Sutras. We're going to continue from where we left off. In this video, we're going to talk about when someone says that the mantra is literally the deity. What do they exactly mean by that, and where is that coming from? Now, I'll tell you right now, we can find the evidence for this statement within the Shiva Sutras, and we're going to go through where exactly to find it. And the exact implication of a mantra being the deity, it means that a mantra is not you picking up the phone, dialing up some mystical being, all-powerful being somewhere out there, and you saying, hey, come help me out. No. That's not what a mantra is. A mantra is far more interesting, far more potent and amazing. It is you standing under the waterfall of the energy that you are bringing about, something that you are calling forth, and either you can hold your breath and let it pass by, or you start drinking in that liquid. And that is the liquid that is changing you fundamentally. The mantra changes you, it changes your consciousness, and it can turn you into a god. That is what is quite literally being implied. And it's reflected in the Puranic stories within our scriptures that mantra is so powerful, what it's able to do. Now, just because you become a deity doesn't mean that you're devoid of problems. I mean, in the stories, this god's getting killed, this god's getting harassed, this one's getting cursed, all sorts of dramas happening. Shiva is blowing up one of them with his third eye. It's it's not a peaceful way to go about. And honestly, the thing that's advocated the most is becoming the yogi. I mean, we see sages in all sorts of different stories in the Puranic stories. They're able to walk around different realms. They're able to curse deities and asuras, and no one messes with them. No one touches them. I mean, you have Indra. Sometimes he's like, oh my God, this one's becoming too powerful. I got to send some distraction over so that he doesn't rattle heaven too much. Like stuff like that. The yogi, the person that understands that everything is one, that sees that there's no lower class, there's no upper class, all of it is the same. That is superior to all things. Now, however, when we say that everything is one, that means there's something interconnected between all particularity that we actually acknowledge as shakti. So that would imply that there's some type of path to anything, to any particular state. And that's why, exactly, you could become the deity. Now, mantra. Mantra is going to be the star of the show. So we have to really define what a mantra is, and this book actually provides that for us. Mantra. This word is formed from the root man plus traya. Man means to ponder over, to ruminate mentally, and traya means to protect. These root words derive from mananat trayate. Mantra is that which, by pondering over the supreme I consciousness, protects or saves one from transmigratory existence. You see all these different mantras, all these different things that people chant. Yeah, all the people are different. All the words are different, but they're all tethered. All these different ropes that are coming from down the same mountain are going to the same peak. Everybody's climbing the mountain in their own different way, but it's all leading to that singular source. The transmigratory existence, that which is the climbing up, that which is the ascending to a higher state, to that Paramashiva, that top layer in the tattvas that is the trueness of all creation, that I consciousness, that everything is actually one, that Brahman concept. Now, understanding that there are many different paths to reach to the same goal, and that there are many ropes and all of them are tied to the singular knot. That is what this is all about. Now that we understand what mantra in definition, what it is, we can go further to the Shiva Sutras themselves. This is where we're going to start, exactly where we left off. Shiva Sutra number 21. Suddha Vidyo Dayach Chakre Shatva Siddhi. Full acquisition of mastery over the collective whole of Shaktis through the appearance of Suddha Vidya. Now, we're going to define further some of our vocabulary here. Suddha Vidya does not refer to any tattva. Suddha Vidya is, in this context, means the supreme consciousness in which everything appears as self. And Vidya This word is derived from the root vid, which means both to deliberate and to know. And this is where we get into why in Tantra we refer to the 10 goddesses as the Mahavidyas, because Shakti is particular. Shakti is particularity. All knowledge has to be particular because it's defined by its scope. It's limited. And because it's limited, we're able to digest it, absorb it, and use it. And that's what makes it power. All knowledge, anything that you could point at, look at, say, and conceptualize within your head, all of it belongs to her. It has to. If it's just everything, oh, the scope is infinite. You can't even, there's no concept of that in the mind. You can imagine it to the best of your ability, but it will never be true. The ultimate Paramashiva, the ultimate Brahman, these are things that you cannot just make up in your head and say, oh, yes, I get it. No, no, no. It's beyond the mind's ability. It is something beyond. You can write so much about it, but it doesn't fall under that true yoga, that union within all Shakti. And this is what this sutra is saying, that the absolute total of all Shakti is the absolute total of all knowledge. Shiva Sutra number 22. Maharadha Nusandhanan Mantra Virya Nubhava. By uniting with the great lake, the infinite reservoir of divine power, he has the experience of the supreme I consciousness, which is the generative source of all mantras. All mantras come from this singular place, as what was hinted at in the beginning. But what are we actually saying here? We're saying that in order to make words, you have to know the entire alphabet. To understand particularity and truth, in order to actually make something happen, it takes the entire scope and the entire understanding to get the specific result. Again, you cannot find the best description for something if you don't know all the words yet. You might be missing out somewhere there. And this we can take very practically. People say that, oh, coding is not for me, the gym is not for me, this activity is not for me, art is not for me. These very general topics and activities, very broad, but they're willing to just stamp this identity towards it and completely shut themselves off from it, when in truth, you do not know the full scope of what you're labeling as something that's not for you, because you do not have the information, the knowledge that could actually reveal where you lie in this very broad activity, very broad facet of existence in life. It's possible to find yourself in anything when you have the appropriate knowledge and when you are due diligent in learning more and more about something. The true limitation to yourself is actually your ability to look at things in a more objective way, in a way that you understand the fullness of what you are actually critiquing or what you're actually deriving and judging. It takes much more than, I tried this one thing and it didn't work for me. No, no, no. You can't that's the ego talking. The ego is the limit that's trying to hold you back, right? But when the ego, a lower ego, when the ego is being diminished, what is actually happening? The expanse, a true expanse is actually happening. The idea of the self, the idea of the I becomes more close to the I consciousness, which is what? Which is all of this. And the truth is that you can become anything you set your mind to. That is what this is. Ugh, get goosebumps. I mean, there's so much to this, right? When you understand the knowledge, again, going back to code, right? Going back to the previous video I did, talking about you could program this universe. The only way how you can really be a great programmer is if you know a lot of code. Even code that you necessarily don't need for a specific task, right? Okay, same thing. Get that knowledge up. And notice something more interesting. That maybe knowledge is not the word, right? Knowledge is maybe it's loaded with this idea that it's like book knowledge. Oh, it's something you could read, something you can understand. But when we say information, that the vidya is information, we kind of get it. All activities are information, right? We can look at the stat block in like a particular athlete and what they're doing. We can break things down into ones and zeros. We can say that everything is actually information, no matter if you're just reading it or doing it. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna acknowledges this and says that karma yoga is jnana yoga, that the two are the same. It's actually Sri Krishna, direct quote, I'll put it right here. But it is something that you do not limit the scope of what is possible within yourself. Shiva Sutra number 23. Chityam mantra. By intensive awareness of one's identity with the highest reality, enshrined with a mantra, and thus becoming identical with that reality, the mind itself becomes a mantra. Here we go. This is it. You are adopting that japa. You are not, when you say Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, you are not talking to some guy up in Kailash at the peak of the mountain. You're not doing that. What you're doing is that what the Vigraha is pointing at, this steadiness, this constant meditator, the person that's covered in ash, this a snake around their neck, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya. What are you doing? You are becoming, slowly being veered to the direction of detachment, the ultimate masculine principle, fearlessness, steadiness. That is what that image, that classic image of Lord Shiva, is portraying. All mantras that you're doing Hanuman Shalisa, you're doing whatever you want to do. Anything that you're doing, you are taking up, you are adopting that slowly within yourself. Now, you chant Namah Shivaya a couple times, you're not going to become Lord Shiva. Unless that's within your karma, then you're a different type of being. But things are not going your way and it's affecting you emotionally. That Namah Shivaya, what does that do? Once you have that detachment, you can be able to objectively look at a situation and figure out your life, right? That's what Namah Shivaya is supposed to do. And then on the other hand, when you have the Shakti principle, when you adopt the divine feminine, you're doing this japa of the divine feminine. If you're initiated the Tantra, you know it is amplifying everything in your life. The volume is up, at least in the experiences that I've heard in myself. This is what is happening. Everything is turned up a dial because she is that energy. She is that force that once that adhara that is balanced out by that masculine principle, the adhara is the body and the mind, this foundation. When that is balanced, when that is ready to go, and then that shakti is then ready to just take you up to the moon, because it's all an adaptation. You are becoming that which you're chanting. To quote this book, if the practitioner of the mantra is different from the mantra, then his mantra will never be successful. Shiva Sutra number 24. Prayatna sadhaka. Zealous and spontaneous close application is effective in fulfillment. Now I'm going to modify the word zealous there to say that it is a deep desire, something that is amplified by some type of emotion, whether that be anger, sadness, grief, resentment, joy, ecstasy, whatever it is amplifying the body-mind complex, which is a tool. This body and this mind is just a tool. This ego and this identity is just a tool. For what? For your own ascension, right? And that amplification with that emotion makes mantra so potent. It just does. Now, in the same way how there's many different flavors to lollipops, and everybody has their preference, they choose their favorite, right? But there's something more fundamental. All these lollipops, regardless of these different flavors, the fundamental is that they're all sugar. It's all just sugar. In the same way, there's many different emotions. And you shouldn't get caught in the particularity of that emotion. What you should be caught up in is what do you do with that emotion when you get it? That's what matters. Where does the energy go? If it goes to fighting this person, being jealous and doing this backhanded thing over here, if it goes to doing something that is unjust, adharma, then that is the wrong way to use that amplification. The right way is to pour it into mantra, to pour it in. There's such a potent method. Everything is a method to realize who you are. Everything is. All the situations in your life, this karma that is playing out, it's all just a method. Whether it's a failed test, whether it's you caught in this drama, even in great things, you got married, you got kids, oh, you won the lottery. All of it is a method to realize who you truly are. And up until the moment you say, this emotion is coming in, I'm going to pour it into the divine. That is when that ascension happens. Such amazement can happen when one just directs it into this particular lane, into this vidya, this true knowledge of the universe. Shiva Sutra number 25. Vidya Sarida Sata Mantra Rahasyam. The luminous being of the perfect eye, consciousness, inherent in the multitude of words, whose essence consists in the knowledge of the highest non-dualism, is the secret to mantra. This sutra is so important. Why? Because it is saying what the difference is between me just talking to you and doing japa, or saying a mantra, or chanting when there's a fire. What am I, just speaking to words in front of a fire? When I'm doing a puja or doing arti in front of Ma Kali, the Murti, is it just a statue I'm talking to? And this sutra is making the difference quite clear, that the mantra has a living current. There's something connected to the highest principle that is different from just a random statement. This is also why particular mantras require initiation, requires that shakti from someone else, that handing down of that shakti, that ultimately that connection needs to be lived through in order for the mantra to be active. You could see this in different tantras, that it is required, the guru's grace is required for a mantra. Otherwise, it is just a row of words, quite literally. And that I consciousness, that supreme understanding, that supreme knowledge needs to be present. The highest principle needs to be in complete awareness when chanting for anything, any particularity within the universe, all manifestation. In order for anything to be manifested, as said earlier, there needs to be an understanding of more of the whole of what is possible. And that can only be possible if you have an acknowledgement of that non-dual I consciousness. When you have the understanding that everything is one, and once you have that, you can pull particularity from anywhere. And how we carry ourselves, how we do mantra, how we apply our shakti should be within that principle, and should be the basis of our ethics, should be the basis of what we do in this world, and should be ultimately why we uplift this society in the name of dharma, in the name of the accomplishment of this life. Let us use mantra for that which is all of this. That is, that if I have a blessing, I give back to this creation which is my own self. If I have a mantra and I'm using it for the fulfillment of something, that something ultimately feed this creation, ultimately feed someone else, ultimately uplift this world, which is my own self. This is the Hindu Conceptualist, signing out.